the wait for our short trigger gun is nearly over. Let's take a look. You guys have been waiting a while for this, and so have I. So this is the production ready gun. We've got a nice rubber coated 2K molding. So when I say 2K molding, I mean that we've got a hard ABS plastic here, which is great for dropping it, you know, all the normal things you do with the gun, and then a nice soft, comfortable rubber grip. We've got a nice short, soft touch trigger here as well. Our famous push lock couplers. And then what's unique about this gun is how we've adapted it to work with all pressure washers. So normally what you used to, if we take a look at this MTM SGS-35 here, the swivel is integrated into the gun, and then to adapt it to certain pressure washers, you have to use fittings. So either a 3/8 plug if you want to use it with a quick release, or you have to take an adapter like this, screw this in there, you have to seal that up, it's all a bit of a nightmare. Screw that all the way in, and say if you've got a Karcher, I'm sure you've seen these before, right? These big, heavy plastic, slightly cumbersome fittings. Now these normally, a bit of a pain to get on there, you've got to screw them on, and then you'd plug your hose in the end here. These can get stiff, lock the trigger on, it's all just a bit of a nightmare. So we've redesigned it all, complete from the ground up. Instead of having the swivel integrated into the gun, which means if you ever need to change a swivel, it gets gritty, you drop it, I don't know, it covers in sand, whatever happens, you have to take the whole gun apart. Now you don't. Now the swivel is a separate piece, and it's much smoother than when it's adapted higher up on the gun. So if we look at the MTM here, it's pretty smooth, it's a really good gun, this one. However, that fitting up here, you've got a lot more drag, especially if you've got something like this attached to the end, is trying to rotate that entire mass. Whereas if we've got the swivel lower towards the end of the gun, this just screws on there, there's no PTFE, because there's an O-ring in there. That screws into the inlet of the gun, and that's the swivel. And it's really super smooth. And as we've moved the center of gravity lower down on the gun, as the hose connects to the end here, all it has to do is rotate that mass there. So there's a lot less for the gun to have to do in terms of swiveling. And plus, if you ever need to change this, repair it, rather than taking the whole gun apart, you can just take the swivel off the end of the gun and replace it. Now, when it comes to these fittings, as we were saying before, these big clunky plastic ones, they're a little bit clumsy, so we've come up with this design instead. So normally, a quick release gun was fine for those who've got a Kranzel or any M22 machine. I know you've seen our push lock fittings before. Now you get one of these with the gun depending on which selection you've got. That simply connects to the end there, and then you can quick disconnect your hose easily. Now we've had the same approach for the Karcher with these little brass fittings that come with the gun. So your Karcher hose will go in the end there, you take your fitting, and that's it. So if you have a Karcher or a Nilfisk, you can now have a quick release gun, just like the big boys with a Kranzel. That's the new Carscope trigger gun. We should have our full stock arriving in about 10 days or so. Can't wait to get them in your hands. Thanks.